Hi guys, it's Isis again. And so we've just set up our gradebook and how it's going to function kind of in the background as we're putting things together. We've decided that we're going to create a weighted gradebook, and so now we're ready to start putting some things actually in it. So let's go ahead and start with category. So I'm going to click new grade category. And before I start here, I want to make sure that I say there is more than one way to skin a cat. This is just how I particularly skin a cat and how I put together my weighted gradebook. There is more than one way to put together a weighted gradebook. This is just how I do mine, and it has been very, very helpful. So, in the last time we talked, we looked at my syllabus. Let me bring that back up. We looked at my syllabus and we figured out we're going to use a weighted gradebook, and we figured out we had 4 buckets: 1, 2, 3, 4: quizzes, discussions, essays, and final. And each one of those have a particular weight or a particular percentage of the grade that's going to be calculated. All of these percentages add up to 100. So I'm going to make sure that I use this to do my gradebook with, because this is in my syllabus and this is what I have promised my students that I would use to calculate their grades. So this is what I'm going to use. So here I am. I'm going to go back to my sandbox here, and the first category I have was quiz. So I'm going to put quiz here. Just because I'm just a little bit anal, I'm going to go ahead and put quiz here. You really don't need a short name here. You can just use a name here and it should be fine, but you're fine. I just like these things to match up for some reason. It's a thing with me. Okay, here you can actually have a description here, and this is something that your students can see once you click here and allow users to read a description. So if you want to say these are quizzes that we took online, or these are quizzes that we took before COVID, or these are only going to be face-to-face quizzes, you can go ahead and write that there. I think the name, it kind of tells you what it is, so I usually leave that alone. Then I write the weight, and according to my syllabus, the weight to the quizzes is 20%. So I'm going to go ahead and write 20 right there. The next button down is whether I want to allow the category grade to exceed the category weight. And essentially what that means is that, do I want the weight of everything to topple over like an overdone Christmas tree? The answer is always no. But here's the official explanation. So if you want to select this, you're going to select this option if you want to allow your students' grades for the category to exceed 100. So if you want it to be 110 or 150, that's completely up to you. I like to keep it simple, and 100 is the thing to do. Okay. So then you have the distribution. Do you want to manually assign weight to the items in the category, so that maybe the weight is 20, but maybe one assignment really gets a bigger portion of that 20% pie than the other? Or do you want to distribute weights evenly across all the items in the category? I tend to click this so that everything is pretty even. You also want to distribute weight even. You could also distribute weight evenly across all items and pick kind of the number that you want to use. So this is an option. I personally like to distribute the weights evenly across all items. Just makes it quite easier to calculate. But this is completely up to you. This is your gradebook. And then where it says display options is how the grade is actually going to be displayed, or how this part of the gradebook is going to be displayed. Are you going to display the class average to users? Up to you completely. Are you going to display the grade distribution to users? And there's a difference between them. So if you're going to do the class average, it's just pretty much the average grade that students received for this item in your gradebook. If you're going to display the grade distribution to users, it's you allowing the students to see a graph of where the grades were distributed between different percentiles. So if it's like in the 90 percentile, like is 90 to 100%, where did they fall? Did it fall closer to the 90 side? Did it fall in the middle to 95, or did it fall to 100? Completely up to you whether you want to do this. You can also override the display options for this item, and these are the things on the bottom. So when you click this, let me unclick it so I can show you again. When you click this, these items on the bottom go from gray to black, and these should look familiar. These are the decisions you made when you set up your gradebook initially. So you can actually have these do different things if you'd like. I personally wouldn't touch them. Everything is the same, everything is even and very consistent, which is kind of what I usually do with mine. But this is your gradebook, do what you'd like. So I click Save and New because I have another bucket to put in here. And so the next one is going to be discussion. So the discussion boards for my class are 30%. So I'm going to go ahead and hit discussion, or write discussion here. Again, you can put it up here. You don't need it up here. I personally like things to be a certain way. You can write a description here. And of course, the weight goes here. And for my class, discussion is 30%. Do I want to allow this category grade to exceed the category weight? So do I want somebody to be able to earn 105 or 110? I actually like to keep it very simple, but if you do, you can go ahead and do that. And so say if you're grading a discussion post, they get 105 instead of 110, that's perfectly fine. When it distributes, it can distribute evenly though. So think about that. And of course, whether you want to manually assign these items as you go, or if you want to distribute the weights of the items evenly across this particular category. So let's click Save and New again. And here we are with our next category. And you're probably thinking, why haven't I hit the Restrictions tab? Well, let's go ahead and do that right now so you can see what's in that tab. First, I have to name this particular category. And I'm going to name it Essays. Because look what happens if I don't put a name there. See? It's telling me I have to put a name there. I can't look at the restrictions unless I name the restriction. So, or name the category where the restriction is going to happen. So let me go ahead and put essays in here. And here too, because again, I'm a little bit extra. And let me hit restrictions here. So this, if you've ever done any assignments on D2L, looks very, very familiar. This gives the student on their end the ability to see the grade based on when you want them to see it and when you want them to not see it. So if you just want your students to be able to see a grade from the beginning of class to maybe midterms, that's completely up to you. If you want to hide this part of the grade from users, you can click that, or you can just not even touch it and have them see the grades the entire time they're in your class. So that is what the Restrictions tab does. So it's up to you if you want to do that. There's maybe some reasons you would want to. I personally like to give them everything so they know where they are at all times. Of course, essays, description, the weight of my essays is 40, and I'm going to distribute weights by points across the category, and then I am done. So let me finish it out and I'll come back and show you what the next step is. All right, guys, so here is the big buckets of my gradebook already done. As you can see, these adhere to my syllabus. My 20% quiz, my 30% discussion, my 40% essays, and my 10% final. So this is all there. You can see here the final calculated grade and the final adjusted grade. What's going to display for students is the calculated grade. If you want to adjust the grade, say, for example, you want to perhaps raise a 78 to an 80, you can actually adjust it here without dealing with any of this here. So you don't have to give somebody an extra couple of points on the quiz grade or extra couple of points on the essay. You can actually adjust it here. So this is kind of the big shell of it. So how are we going to put actual things on here, actual grade items? So there's a couple of ways you can do this. So you can click on the new button, and what comes up is an item and a category. A category is essentially these big bucket items I keep talking about: the quiz, discussion, essays, and final. Once you have your categories, you pretty much don't have to fool with them for the rest of the semester. What you want to fool with are the items. You also can, to make your lives a little bit easier, enter grades here if you want to grade all the stuff in your quizzes. If you want to enter all the grades all together in one fell swoop, maybe everybody gets participation points and they get 10 out of 10 on a quiz, you can go ahead and grade them here. I personally like to go here on the item, and you get this wonderful dialog box. Yay, fun stuff. So pretty much I hang out with the numeric, and that's if you're wanting to give them points. So 95 out of 100, 8 out of 10, it's one of those things. So pretty much most people hang out on the numeric side. The pass-fail is if you want to give them a pass-fail on an assignment. Here is the more complicated things, the formulas and the calculated grades. So if you want to give them a grade based on maybe a project that they're doing, maybe a whole grade is based 10% on a group presentation, and the other 10% is based on a paper that they turn in, and together that makes for a grade. You can actually think about putting it here in the calculated section. We want to make this pretty easy and super simple as possible. So I'm going to go numeric because that's kind of how I do my things as well. And this should look very familiar. Yay! Wonderful things here. This is how you can actually put together the assignments of your gradebook. So the item actually equals assignments, and the category equals the big bucket things I keep talking about. So maybe we have an essay, so it's essay 1, and I'm going to name it here. Again, see this star right here? That means you have to put something there. I don't really have to put anything here, but because, again, I'm a little bit extra and I just can't leave anything alone, I will put something there. Do you see the core category part here? The category part here should, when you click on it, look familiar as well, because these are the big bucket items you just put into your wonderful gradebook. So I know that this particular assignment that I am putting in my gradebook is an essay, and it goes in the essay part of the grade. I'm going to click it here for essays. And so it stays there. Let's say you forgot to put one of your categories in, right? Just put that back. You forgot to put the category in, and you're looking and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a category that's missing. You see this here? You can click new category, and right on the fly, D2L will create a category in your gradebook. And it will have a lot of the basic stuff in here, like the name, the weight, whether you want to manually assign the weight items or distribute them evenly across the category. And if you want to distribute the weight evenly across all items, and you want to actually assign them your own numbers, that's completely up to you. So you're going to hit cancel, or you're going to hit save for the new category, and you're done. A new category is there. So you don't have to go back to the gradebook and create a new category. You can do it here on the fly. So I know that I've created an essay category, so I'm going to hit essays here. I can write a description here, and this is something that maybe a student will want to say, hey, I don't remember what essay 1 is. So maybe you say essay 1 is a response. Ooh. Response essay over Harrison Bergeron, which is a really great dystopian story. I highly recommend it. So I'm going to allow the users to view that. You don't have to fill this out if you don't want to. It's probably pretty self-explanatory what essay 1 is. I tend to not do that, but this is actually a very turbulent time, so it may be easier for students to try to remember what that assignment was before they send you an email that says, I don't remember what essay 1 is. I don't remember what the discussion board is. Of course I did it. So you may want to put that in there. And of course, the maximum points here is literally how many points a student can earn for this. So if you're doing this on a scale of 100, go ahead and put 100. Now you see how it says wait and then it has click save. I can't click on this. I can't put a wait here. Why? Because I have asked D2L to evenly distribute all the items in this grade category. So if I have 3 essays, or if I have 4 essays, then it's going to be 25% of 25 each essay. That's evenly distributed in that one part of the grade. So that's what a weighted item can do. You can hit can exceed, and can exceed is it can exceed more than 100 points. I tend to not do that, but that's up to you. Bonus! Yes. Bonus items are not included in the maximum points for the category or final grade. They're added on top of the calculated grade. Bonus items cannot make users' grade exceed the maximum points specified unless the can exceed option is selected. So this is wonderful for things like extra credit. So you can actually put it in the category that it goes, and it's calculated on top of the calculated grade. So it's not that they get additional 5 points at the end of the semester, unless that's what you want to do, but they get maybe a little bit of bump in that one particular part of the gradebook. And of course, it can exceed anything that you put. So if I don't want them to exceed over 100, it won't do it. If I do want them to exceed over 100, maybe they got everything right and I'm giving them an extra 5 points on this assignment, I can go ahead and do that. The grade scheme here always defaults to percentage, and that is the grade scheme that was chosen for us when we set up the gradebook, and there was actually no other option other than percentage. So there it is. Here you can actually add rubrics. I don't have any rubrics here because this is a sandbox, but once I have rubrics, I can go ahead and attach them here. And what this does is whenever I bring this assignment up to grade onto D2L, the rubric will come up with it, and I can actually grade using the rubric. You can also create a new rubric here in a new window, so you don't have to leave the grading item here to do a rubric. It'll actually open up a new tab and you can work on your rubric here and then attach it to your wonderful things. Now, let's go here. So let's say you attach the rubric. You have it how you want. What happens now? You can click show display, and all of this, of course, we've been over before. How do you want this displayed? When you are done, you can hit save and close, or if you have another assignment, hit save and new. I'm going to hit save and close so we can see what it looks like in the gradebook. And there it is, essay 1. And so because it's the only assignment in my essays portion of my gradebook, the weight is 100. So there you go. I like this part because it shows you, when you have all of your items here, it shows you which one of these have the max points. Sometimes I have items that are 1 through 10. Sometimes I have items that are 1 through 100 for max points. It just depends on the essay. My discussion posts tend to be 1 through 10 because I think it's easier for students to understand, oh, I got an 8, I got a 9, versus an essay. They're usually very astute about what a 96 is versus what an 86 is, or 76, or 66, or 56, because they've been doing that all their lives. So I tend to leave those at a 100. And so there you go. That is your weighted gradebook. I hope that this was helpful, and let us know if you have any questions. Bye, guys.